recording. Welcome to Power BI Nibble number 2. I live for CSV files. I'm Alan Farmer, and I am quite fond of Power BI. Power BI is constantly being enhanced, and I'm human. So use my advice at your own risk. I'm serious. Don't sue me. And this is on me, not on my employers. Wherever you are watching this, you might have some buttons like subscribe, turn on notifications. Please consider doing so. If you do it, it will make a puppy somewhere smile. If you want to see all my videos, you can go to youtube.dataguy.me, and there's the main URL. It'd be nice if you visited that too. And I'll also have I gotta do it like this. There we go. All my tutorials written, and these will be on Nibble's wiki, which is nibbles.wiki for the URL. Think I got it? Ready? Let's learn together. Gotta move a couple things around here. Move that. And then press that button. You see my desktop? Let's go ahead and get some data. Normally when you open it up, it'll have it, but this one I'm just going to go ahead and go to get data. Let's see if we have it there. It's right there. There's the file. And as I mentioned in my first nibble, which is going to be that direction. I'll try to remember to put up a card or whatever they call those things. So I can go to the first nibble. I don't just load. See how this says load? I always go to transform data because I want to see what I'm working with. There's usually something that you're going to need to change. I have other advice in that one about like naming things. I'm not going to worry about changing all the names of queries and all that. Just showing you CSV files. Something I do say on that one is, if you do not see this formula bar here, like I see it, hit view, and then you want to click on this. Just have it on. It's handy. And if you look at this, if I go to the source here, you can see how it brings it in. My first Power BI nibble is about using parameters. So if we were going to do this seriously, we would not leave it a hardwired path. We would use parameters. But notice, you tell it what your delimiter is. You tell them how many columns. Well, okay. It figured all this stuff out. The comma is pretty obvious. It's comma separated values, right? It figured out how many columns, and it actually did do it right in this one. 180 columns. Hopefully, you don't usually have that many. The encoding, you know what? It almost always works whatever they decide. So I'm good with that. And then the quote style. It's important. We're going to talk a bit about that and why that's important. So, some advice. Remember, the columns are hardwired. So let's say you have something with 20 columns, a bit more reasonable, and you go to the people who are providing you with the data and say, I need these two other fields. So they add those two fields on there. So instead of 20 columns, you have 22. Guess what? You go to import the data, and I'm not saying this ever happened to me. You go to import the data, and lo and behold, they told me those fields were there. They're not there. Well, they're not there because it says 20 here, or 180, and it's now 22 or 182. Remember, you've got to do it. And what I would say is sometimes they'll give you some extra fields, and you're not even sure how many extra fields they gave you. The way I deal with that is I just come in here, and at the source line, I can go like 182, hit check, and then you can scan over, and you can see there's nothing there. And then you can go. So what I do is, like, if I think there might be 3 new fields, I might put 5 extra on there, then figure out what really is legitimate, change the number, hit check again. What about quote style? Why is that important? You know what? 99.9% of the time, it's probably going to be okay. But CSV is a standard that allows you to have funky stuff, like you can, within the text, have a new line or a carriage return or whatever. But when you normally read CSVs, if you're going to write your own program to do it, you're just going to read one line at a time. But if somebody puts within the text a new line, so now your one line isn't 2, well, if you leave it at none, it's going to puke on it because it's going to read it as 2 lines, and this next line, maybe this first line, but the next line's probably not going to parse very well. You're going to get some funky stuff. If you don't, you're going to get some funky data, and it's actually better that it give you an error than to just do it and you find out otherwise. And lo and behold, without giving you the history, the opportunity I had to use CSV files seriously was for my VP, and when he implicitly asked me to do it by copying me in, I said, I live for CSV files. And lo and behold, sure enough, that file had what I'm just talking about, where one line, line feed character, whatever it is, caused it to be 2 lines. And this fixed it. Changing this, actually, I should say this, from none to CSV, right there. None works, but if you have one of those things where you might have a carriage return or a line feeder, that kind of stuff, do that. And what that says is, hey, if it's between quotes, right, then I'm not going to count it as 2 lines. I'm going to count that as still one value in 1 line. Okay. Let's see. What else can we talk about here? Disadvantages of CSV files. Number 1, there's no boundaries in them. If you have a table in Excel, tables by definition, I suppose, have columns and rows, right? Just like that, and they're boundaries. And Excel can figure out what those boundaries are. With sheets in Excel and with CSV files, it's trying to guess how many rows and how many columns, and it's usually pretty good, but it's not the same as having boundaries put in within the application. So that's an issue, but what it means is this, is that what you always want to do, and by the way, even with tables, because people will put blank rows in tables, is you don't want to say select every field and then say, hey, remove blank rows. Because what can happen is all it takes is, like, take this, 180 columns. All it takes, some number of lines down, is one character in it, in a cell, and it will say it's not blank. Now, you'd say with CSV, hopefully they don't have blank lines on the end, but don't trust the data. There's another bit of advice. Never trust the data. So just come in here, choose a field. I'm going to switch to this one here. But let's go choose a field, and let's say we know there's always going to be a region. Come here, and I do this constantly. And I do it with tables, Excel sheets, and with CSV files. Let's say remove empty. And then something else, just make sure you label things. Change this so people have filtered out blank regions, right? So people understand. So always do that. Again, CSV files, a detriment is there are no hints. I can't promise you exactly what does and doesn't happen, but it seems to me with Excel, maybe it's based on formatting and stuff, Excel can kind of figure out more about the type of data, whereas with CSVs, it has to look at this first number of records and figure it out. So there are no hints about data types. The files are big. Now, I was going to show you this one, but lo and behold, I don't know, it must be that Excel has like a minimum overhead. So the Excel version, when I saved the same CSV as Excel, was actually larger. Let me show you another case you might find interesting. I can't promise if it's the same because I cannot open this one in Excel, which is one of the, I'll tell you one of the benefits in a moment of CSVs. But take a look at this, okay? Notice this episode 1, this imported a CSV file of 24.4 million lines, and it's only about 19 meg. Look at the source data. Source data, let me squeeze it in here. Source data size is 3.4 gigabytes. 3.4 gigabytes. They are huge, and usually in my experience with Excel too, if the Excel file, if you have a huge CSV file, Excel files are going to be a lot smaller. But that brings us to a positive. This has 24.4 million lines as of me recording this. I think Excel can only go up to about 1 million lines. So CSV files, they can get huge, yes, in size and hard to deal with, but they can get huge when you need it. And, you know, processing a file this big with 24.4 million lines, it's not as bad as you think. I don't know if it'd even take 10 minutes. The fact is, it's a pretty amazing format. Another benefit is CSV files are not proprietary. There are standards about how they should be built, which is good. Otherwise, your life will be difficult. But they aren't proprietary, which means you're not stuck in an ecosystem. So I love Excel too. I love Power BI. CSV files aren't signed. And, you know, I'm in the Microsoft ecosystem, or I'm in the Apple ecosystem. You can use them across the board. Last bit of advice before I wrap up. I can't remember exactly what, but I've had cases where the same data could be in Excel or CSV, and I've needed to flip. And if you don't totally change your query, like you only change the source line so that you can bring in the Excel file instead, just check your data types again, either direction, whether you change from CSV to Excel or Excel to CSV, check your data types because they may not, it seems to me like, for instance, I didn't need to set it in a CSV file, it was automatically text, but then when I went to Excel, it was, if you've ever seen it, I don't know if I can choose it here. No, it's not letting me, but you'll see where it'll say here, ABC123 means it's variant. It wasn't able to figure it out in all the cases like that. So not sure exactly why, could just be me remembering it correctly. Do watch the first video. I do give other advice, like I would not leave this name this way for a query. I won't go into more stuff. We'll stop there. Any questions? Hey, do me a favor. Put them in the comments. You can also email me at Alan, A-L-A-N, short version of Alan, alan@dataguy.me. I love this stuff. So, you know, if I don't have time, I'll be honest with you, right? But if I do have time, I'd love to learn with you, because when you ask me questions, you may think you're a burden. You're not. You're teaching me. And literally you might. And if you have things, you'd say, hey, Alan, you should have said this, or Alan, you were wrong about that. Put those in the comments. And also, if there's something you want me to do a video about, right now I'm doing simple ones. I'll get into a little more complex things in the future. But if there's anything you want me to do a video about, please do it. And then finally, please, 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 if you see that like or that subscribe or that notification button, please go ahead and press them. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next Power BI Nibble.